What is it about riding a bike that is so liberating? What unites us all is the craving for that special feeling. This is what inspired the developers at Garneau to create the innovative, award-winning X-Comfort technology, optimizing comfort to maximize performance and, most of all, the good feelings that make us so passionate about riding. The brand new X-Comfort Zone incorporates an elasticized zone that expands up to 5 mm to accommodate V through D+ foot widths. We all pedal in the same way. As you push down, your toes naturally splay. And the dynamic changes that happen inside your shoe as your feet contract and expand under pressure as you ride. The pressure and friction created as the outside of your foot expands over and over against your shoe can create serious and painful hot spots and irritations. The longer you ride, the worse it can become. This makes for a level of never-before experienced comfort in the highest performing cycling footwear. Every cyclist rides for that special feeling that cycling brings to us. Each one of us has our own version of what it means to enjoy the ride. We just help make it possible.
Go down the road. All right, don't throw your arms in the air. Don't do anything crazy. No random shit, okay?
I had my own strategy. I was actually working for you guys. So what I did at the last moment, I just pulled back. So you guys need to buy me some beers.
Esports. We love to play. Since the 1980s, video games and competitive gameplay have been part of our Western culture. The video arcade, the Atari, Nintendo, PlayStation, even PC gaming are all part of this rich cultural lineage of play. We play ourselves, we watch, we even compete. What makes an esport? Well, any individual or team game that can be played on a level playing field in competition, whether that's live or online.
Still alive! Charm's gonna let off swim! Is he gonna be able to walk away? Baker is still running! Still damaging him! There's another turn! And his passion goes down!
While there are half a dozen top-tier esports, more than 100 different titles are being played competitively around the world. Esports break all boundaries. They're played by men and women, cross cultures, and can be played on consoles, PCs, and even mobile devices. Esports are truly a world sport. Over the last decade, we've seen interest, broadcasting, and live events eclipse those of their traditional sport counterparts. Esports are a massive draw. We love to watch them live, and we love to watch them stream. For people under 30, video games are the most popular media industry in the world, more popular than television, music, or movies. But competitive video game play is not just something we do, it's something we watch. In 2016, more people watched the League of Legends Championships than the World Series, the NBA Championships, or the Stanley Cup playoffs. That makes the top 3 sporting events in the World Cup, the Super Bowl, and a video game competition. Esports are the sport of the rising generation. Talented players, broadcasters, and managers are filling every level from professional, now to collegiate, high school, and even Pee-wee. To many, esports is the biggest world they've never heard of. But to millennials, it's the future of competition, of broadcasting, and of sport. But not the distant future, the future of today. This is esports. Cyclogen's Virtual Rankings is a ranking system for Zwift racers, built to make racing more fun for all levels of ability. The rankings are based on historical data, as well as new race results, which are uploaded immediately. Racers are divided into divisions, and points are distributed based on the strength of the field in the race. Terms are separated into months, quarters, years, and lifetime. And at the end of each term, racers are able to be promoted to a new division. High-scoring elite racers are also automatically under consideration to participate in a CVR World Cup event.
We're on a journey and we're going by bike. Bicycles set people free. It starts as kids when bikes set us free to explore the edges of our neighborhood. It continues into adulthood when weekend rides set our minds free from work and worry. It's the reason why still today bikes are at the heart of everything we do. Through our products, we propel bike lovers forward, be it in pursuit of personal enjoyment or peak performance. Through our business approach, we strengthen our community in Madison, Wisconsin, where we design and build the vast majority of our American-made products. Through our advocacy, we promote healthier, happier, bike-smart communities, both locally and nationally. We set out on this journey the day Sarah and Chris combined names to form Saris. So grab a bike and join us.
Well, hello and welcome to CVR World Cup League. I'm Chris Haskell, that is Beth York, and we're going to bring in Frank Garcia in just a second, but we are so excited to bring you this Zone D race. This is the final week of Season 2, the regular season. And Beth, this is make or break for these folks. People will qualify or won't. What's this like?
Well, this is the 8th and final race of the regular season, the best 6 count. You can follow cycledata.cvrworldcup.com and you can see how those points are shaking out right now. And today we've got 43.7 kilometers on this course, a flat course. So people are going to be duking it out. We're going to see some attacks. We're going to not rely for the end on the sprint. I saw a lot of attacks in the earlier races today. So, Chris, it matters. Today, all the points matter.
Boy, it does. 7 laps of a circuit course. It is going to be super exciting in virtual London. And you're not kidding. It is not going to be this calm experience until the end. It is going to be crazy. This is an opportunity for folks to get their name in the record book. This is not Zone E, but Zone D. And we've got a number of different folks coming up here in this group. Ryan Christensen, Joachim Plommers, all of these guys would love an opportunity to meet up with Lars Peikenbrink or Jeff Muse in Vancouver, which is just a month away, a little over a month away. And these guys want to get in there. Lionel Vujicic also in the group today. And on the women's side, they want to compete against some of these women up here, which would include, of course, on the women's side, on the D side, Lucy Collins, Ina Ketzer, Esther Maisels, all in this race today, trying to meet up with these different folks. This is Zone D that we're in right now. Apologies for the wrong graphic, but this is the standings as we see them. Christensen, Plommers, Vujicic, Copsey, basically a pronunciation final here at the end
all
of
places
the school
for
year.
me to get tangled up, Chris.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Gregor Buchholz on the men's side. We're going to see the other Buchholz on the women's side. But as they line up for the kickoff here, Beth, what's going to happen here at the very beginning? This is a relatively long race, but it's going to get fast quick, isn't it?
It's going to be smoking out of the gate, Chris. With 30 seconds to go, these guys are thinking that they cannot soften. They have to just come out of the gate hot, and they're going to keep it there. This lead-in is a couple miles lead-in before the 7 laps start counting down. So these guys, if they miss the train, they're going to be dropped like it's hot in a short instant. So right now on their trainers, they're probably spinning up. They're connected to smart trainers or power meters that are in communication with the game. 5 seconds to go here, and when they're off, we're going to see who blasts out of the gate. Here we go. And they are off. All right, now you can see here that they do go off really hot. They have power-ups are allowed in this front part here. We see off the front Martins, Damitz, Dempster, all of the Vujasin, all of the people that you'd expect to see at the front here, and they're coming out 8.2 watts per kilogram, 5.0. These guys are not going to let anyone get away. This race is long. They do need to save some stuff for their secret super attacks if they're going to do those, and sometimes people are hanging on. But you can see right out of the gate, over 5 watts per kilogram, and nobody is getting left behind of this front group. I don't see any power-ups being dropped, Chris. People must not have got them today.
No, they're just not too worried about him. I'll point out that in the group, Thies Zonneveld, who's the Netherlands professional rider, very, very strong rider, and he's he most recently Park Hotel Valkenburg. He is a verified professional rider also in this group today. Now it's been a year or two before he's had since he's had a nice finish, but maybe he's noticing what's going on here in this world of cycling and wants to get in on the money, wants to be able to get an invite to one of these big events. It would not surprise me. Having a professional in the field is not uncommon, but it is always something that makes you smile against the Igor Kopsis, right? Against these other riders that we know so well from these weeks. I'll point out as well that in addition, there's Igor right there. He does not need a jersey. In fact, he's got that kind of Hulk syndrome. He finds that all of his shirts get ripped all the time. What's the guy supposed to do? Now, but he's being chased by Gavin Dempster, who already locked up his spot, perhaps his ticket to Vancouver with an earlier race this year. In Zone A, by winning it by a long shot over Steven Lewandorf. But Beth, so as we get ready to bring Frank in here, this is my question to you. There are a few folks notably missing. They don't necessarily need this race this week to have the success at the end of the season that they want here. But here in Zone D, Ryan Christensen and Joachim Plommers, both conspicuously absent, unless I have missed them in the lineup here. Both of them have taken the day off.
I do not see them here. And, a lot of folks, maybe they've done the calculation of their points and they're confident in their positions. Anything can happen. Perhaps they had trouble logging on, or perhaps they just decided that they're going to the beach today. One may never know. But this leaves open more points for the people who did show up. So Vujasin and Martins and Kopse, Hughes, these guys can really put some points on the map. So hopefully they're good with arithmetic if they did do the gamble for not showing up. I think I showed up for all 8 because I needed them. But even if I didn't need them, I don't think, it's a chance, you want to be present just in case you don't know who's going to sneak up. Here we are looking at Rick Woods, one of our B racers. And he's looking strong. He's the Team X racer here. And he's leading up the B group, I understand.
Yep, he is. He's got in that B chase right there. At this point, no chase. He's like hanging out there with the strongmen right there at the front, as we would expect. Often,
he's a strong rider.
Yeah. Now, he is coached by a world champion, Scotty Weiss, who we see a little bit later in the day. He's got Scotty's logo emblazoned at the top of his screen there. But it is good to see these different riders kind of doing their thing. So Ryan Christensen and Joachim Plommers, both with high average points. Joachim, after 6 races, has a total of 59.93. But Vujicic, not that much further behind him, with a big victory today, could do some really cool stuff.
Yeah, he could. I mean, he has been here every race, always gives us a show. He attacks. His legs, you know, I would like to borrow his legs in another lifetime because he can attack and recover. And Kopse is just mean in the sprint. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see how, you know, if Vujicic attacks today, how the rest of the group responds. You know, we've seen, I enjoy watching the streams when Plujmer's watching one of his teammates go off the front and he's dancing to something in the background. But these guys, I think, are all game face today. There's going to be just seriousness because these points really matter.
They really do, and not just for bragging rights, but for the potential of an invite. Now, most people don't know this. If you're just joining us, if you're on Mixer, you're on Facebook. Hi, how's it going? Chime in, tell us where you're from. That's always interesting to hear. But here's the deal. This is the 8th week of the regular season. The winners from each category, if they meet all the qualifications, will be invited to the live final in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is coming up at the end of June. And we'll talk a little bit more about that before the broadcast is done. But the others can, if they are second place in there, can actually qualify in this to participate in different postseason activities. Sometimes it's just for bragging rights that, hey, I beat you. I beat this other guy. There's Patrick Ascenders right there. Everyone's setup is just a little bit different, which is always interesting to see. Patrick, looking good.
And then when they get to the live final, you know, we are all on virtual trainers we're all on real trainers playing a game together. And when you're in the real life event, that is a whole different feeling, you know, looking down the line and seeing these riders and, you know, and watching what they can do and watching the sweat. So we get a little glimpse into their cave here, what they look like, what their riding style is, you know, what their strengths and weaknesses are. And then, you know, if you do get the chance to be at a live event, it is just insane crazy. I was listening to Zimmerman on one of the podcasts talk about how nervous he was. And I was so comforted by the fact that he was nervous because sometimes you think these folks are just, you know, rising up and doing their thing. But you know, this is the real deal. This is real racing, real effort on the trainers. The input from the trainers is in communication with the game. So when there's a little hill in the game, this is a flat course. There are a couple risers here where people might make a little break or attack, but you know, your body feels the gradient changes, your bike resistance changes, and so you're constantly reacting to the environment around you and to the riders around you.
No kidding. Okay, so let's bring in our guy Frank here. We got to get some commentary from him. I'm very interested to know. He tends to be our insider, the man on the inside. Probably know just a little bit more. The two leaders in this field, having 6 races under their belt and a ton of points and a big points lead, are both conspicuously absent. That is Ryan Christensen and Joachim Plommers. Vujicic, the highest-ranking guy still in the race, but what a great race that he'll have against Kopse and Buchholz, without a doubt. So what light can you shed on the absence of these two riders, and is this strategic? Is it, what do you think?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that are impacting that. One, we got a couple of Zada disqualifications. Give me just a second.
Okay, so he's going to double check that information. That's really interesting. Zada is the group that helps to regulate the the accuracy of power and output, and that doesn't mean that it's nefarious. No, we're not going back to the old days of 2000, early 2000s era Tour de France kind of stuff. No, I mean, they're just different devices, and they have to be set up properly so that the watts that you put in are the watts that you get out and show in the game. And there are lots of different ways to verify those things. But if it doesn't get remedied or if it doesn't get fixed, sometimes someone will find themselves in a different spot. Hey, there's our guy right there, Ketzer. So Frank, I think I hear you back on the line here. Give you a chance to jump in and maybe just comment on the absence of these two riders and what we might see moving forward.
Yes. So what we'll see is, give me just a second. Okay, it's just getting feedback. Okay. What we have is a couple of people here, and so I think it's actually maybe a problem for Ryan. I've got to look at the overall points, and Joachim, they're assuming they're going to win D and come in second, but you've actually got Vuzjan and Kopse, who put out so much power in a couple past races that those races are under review, and so they don't look like they're missing one race. So they're here today, and they might get that race back here today or tomorrow, and so that could really change things up. So very, very interesting tactics. But what you see is everybody needs a rest. It's an 8-week season. You've got to rest up. There's a postseason, so if you're plumbers, for instance, you've got a lot of hard racing. You've got to win the next 3 weeks head-to-head, and so you want a couple-week break. You want to taper a little bit. You want to recover from the regular season, and so they're like, hey, we're just going to stay out of this one today and prep for the postseason.
Okay, that is very strategic. Beth, you raced today and locked up your field earlier. Tell us a little bit more about that. You didn't take the week off. You decided to go strong to the end. You raced all 8 weeks, if I remember correctly. What was your thinking?
Well, my thinking is that, racing, anything can happen in a race, whether you're on the road or if you're in game, right? You can have a flat tire, your chain can drop, different things can happen that can, sabotage your race. And you don't show up every day, with the same amount of rest, perhaps, or the same amount of fueling. And to me, I also look at these races not only for points and for fun, but they're great training. So I just put them on my calendar and I tick them off and try to bring my best self every Tuesday and hope that it's enough. So it was, and I was very excited about that. Well, it looks like we're on the wheel here with Tracy Vogel. She is riding in the B bracket. There are A, B, C, and D brackets in the CVR World Cup, and the A racers are the ones that are racing for points for the chance for an invite to the World Cup live event at the end of the month. But Tracy here, I think next season that she races, she should probably move up to A, because she, week after week after week, has been hanging with Ketzer and Slusher, and she has been right at the front all the time. So I think that she's really seen a lot of improvement, and I think that's what happens. She shows up every race, she brings her best, and then here's Ina Ketzer, who again, she's done all 8 races if I remember correctly. She's been or at least 7 out of 8, and she every time shows up. Former triathlete, has competed in all types of big time events and has placed very well. Too many to list, actually. But Ina is always at the front here, pushing the pace, and she doesn't back down ever. She is just a strong rider. And the points here in this one are also something to talk about, because right now we're talking about the absence of people. I do not see Lucy Collins, unless I was reading it wrong. I'm surprised to not see Lucy here.
No, she's not there. She's got 6 races in the books. She's got a total of 6,011 points. Even if Ina has a great breakout performance, she streams, she gets all the points possible. The best for her is to max out this season with her 6 races at 6,005. So she's in clear, lead right there. She's got the support of Christoph, husband, next to her, who is also racing in this race. He's a strong men's B rider, sits about midfield in the Bs, which is no small feat. Hey, everybody on Mixer, thank you for joining us, and on Facebook. We're excited to bring you a lot of disbelief and excitement simultaneously. Wait, what is this? Yes, real bikes, real people, virtual world. It allows people to race all around the world and come together for these big races. This is one of 8 global zones right here. We've got Vogel right here. You can see what life looks like for her. She's got her screen and her video up. She's got all of these things, towel, to show you the real work that's happening. Real sweat, hardest video game ever, as it was described just a couple of months ago. But Beth, as we kind of consider the possibility, now you're very aware of some of these women who are at the top of these various lists, right, for the different zones. Again, 8 global zones, as we just mentioned. You managed to get yourself to the top of the B zone, and will likely, unless there's something, you've got some weird things going on in your training that we're going to uncover, like you don't separate your recycling properly, that your flower bed may in fact have some weeds in it that have not been taken, and then you wouldn't get an invite.
All of my weeds are wildflowers. All of my weeds are wildflowers.
Likely story. We've heard that before.
That means I don't weed.
That's right. It was tainted cheek meat, I swear. No, so you're looking at the potential of racing against folks like Claudia Baring, for this group, folks like Lucy Collins. The opportunity perhaps to race against a Mary Wilkinson or an Ava Buchholz or even a Carrie Conabear again. Who are some of the riders, Vicky Whitelaw, even Cheryl Muldoon, that you could see a little bit later next month that give you pause, people you're worried about?
Well, Vicky Whitelaw has just been, and Mary Wilkinson, those two I've been watching, and they're very strong riders. And of course, we know Claudia is very strong, and she's also, just very, very much a competitor. She's got an incredibly strong mind. So this type of racing, obviously all of these racers are strong on the road, and then they bring their power in the game, and there's different tactics and different things that you do in the game that you wouldn't, that are just kind of little bit quirks and stuff. So it's interesting to see, you need a different type of mental capacity, I think, when you do this type of racing. And I know Claudia is tough, both mentally and physically, but Vicky and Mary, those two, I'm not supposed to bet against myself, but if I were, those were the two.
Those were the two? Yeah. Wow.
Those were the two, yeah.
This just in. Beth York thinks she's going to lose big time to Vicky and Mary. More on this a little bit later.
Hey, you know what? I would not be. The level of competition just keeps increasing and increasing, and as more and more people come to this esports world, it's like I'm going to be at the back of the pack. There are just too many strong, talented riders out here that are going to be coming to this that I need to get comfortable with that, and I am.
All right, and the tall drink of water we're looking at right now, Ryan Goldenberg, is one who qualified for the last CVR World Cup event, and that was in Los Angeles. It's called the Major for a reason, and he found himself in a very, very tough race. He was a relative newcomer, climbed up through the ranks through a very specific training process, did a number of races to there qualify for that advantage, and then took that advantage and raced against world pros. Here's what we find out, right? That there are some incredibly strong athletes that don't happen to be professional cyclists right now. They're accountants, right? They're folks like Gardner, who, the fastest accountant on a bike anywhere is the way he, kind of describes himself. And as we look at Goldenberg's setup here, he's got his workout room at home. He's got his, monitor on the wall. He's watching very closely what's going on the right side of his screen. He sees that lineup of all the riders that he's racing with. He hears his name. He rolls to the front. Attaboy, Ryan. Now it's about time to animate this thing. We haven't seen it yet, but we would really, really like to see someone tear the roof off of it. There's all that crowd on the right side. Here's another one. Haley, he's all tatted up. we're going to copy those tats. You and I are going to get them as well. You raced for a team called Velocity Vixen, which created some of their own little tattoos. Of course, they're press-on tattoos. It's hard to commit to such things. Not a big fan of needles. But we notice, we look around here, we see a few of these bracketed names on the backside of someone's name, like Tilt, EXT, or LVE, right? Those are the different. Christoph Ketzer about a minute and a half behind him now. But those teams can come to play at events like this. And as it's starting to shape up, I'll ask Frank this question first. Do we look like we're going to see collections of individuals who happen to be part of teams qualifying for the event in Vancouver?
Ask that question again. I don't think I followed you.
So it's an individual process. You have to win your zone. There are teams that compete really hard in the Zone C. We're seeing a little bit of push at the front of this group here. Ushering in a different pace. He's the guy pushing it on the front here. Halsey and Ketzer now a little bit off the back here, but Halsey trying to stay in with that group. This is the Rick Woods group from Team Experimental. That's your teammate. So let's bridge it that way when we talk about. And then we're looking at Sanders right there. But when we talk about teams, there's a real possibility that just like Velocity Vixens did at the major in LA, we'll have teams represented because of the individual qualifications in Vancouver. What does that do to change the dynamic of a race like this? What do teammates do for you?
Well, cycling is a true team sport, and that carries on into the virtual world here, virtual racing and cycling as well. So what a team will do for you is allow you not to have to chase everything down because you have team members who will chase it down. So you can sort of just sit in. Teams will usually designate one or two people who are going to go for the win on that particular day. And because of that, what you have is the ability to sort of be protected. If there is an attack, you know your teammates are going to go chase it down. And because of that, you can just follow people and rest. And you know that if it takes 3 or 4 minutes of hard effort to bring somebody back, that's going to be one of your teammates or all of your teammates who will in turn take in that effort, and you just stay protected and you're setting yourself up for the end of the race. And what we do here at CVR World Cup is sort of balance endurance and shorter races that are exciting to watch, right? So we have races that are a little bit longer than your typical virtual race because endurance does matter, right? After a while, and what you're seeing here is the men's race is starting to get animated. You see people are starting to go hard. And they're sitting up a little bit straight. They're stressing a little bit more. Their avatars don't look like they're working too hard, and that's why we show you the people. Because you can see, because this is a physical esport, that they're burning energy. And cycling is also about energy conservation. You're trying to save your energy until it really matters. There's going to be a few key points in the race where some people attack, and then obviously at the end, this will most likely end in a sprint finish. But you see a lot of people here trying to get a gap going as well. So that's how your teammates work for you. They protect you. You can also use them as decoys. There's a lot of things you can do with teammates. So you can send one up the road going super hard, and then the other teams have to decide, well, do we not want to win today? Do we just want to let that person go? That sort of thing. And then they have to chase the person, and that causes that team and potentially their person, if he gets more isolated, if he has fewer team members in the lead group, to burn energy as well.
Now, Beth, you were part of an assembled team that happened to compete in CVR World Cup LA. That was the last major. It was in March, and each of you qualified independently. It was not like you were invited as a team. And so each of you had personal interest to be successful there. But at some point during that final day of racing, which was a 3-stage race, you found yourself actually employing teamwork. Can you talk a little bit about what you did and what you were thinking about? Why was that such a part of Kerry Conabert's success, who ended up winning the entire event?
Well, when you have your teammates, you kind of know what their strengths are, and of course the field might know what the individual rider's strengths are, but they don't know how and when you're going to play your tactics. And one of the things that having other riders in the race was that we could take turns protecting and covering any gaps. If anyone made an attack, we could close it, and we could bring a rider with us. And it was one of those things that we all felt so proud to be there and wanted to have a great showing for our team. The teamwork just kind of came naturally. We know that Carrie is a good climber. We know that Inga is just incredibly strong on the flats. So we had a good mix of we had a good diverse team. So we were able to try to play each other's strengths. And of course, when it came down to the sprint, we knew who our sprinter was, and but nobody held anything back, and we did really try to just stay strong for each other, help each other mentally, and know that we had each other's back. So it was an incredible experience, and that teamwork stuff started in the postseason leading up to LA. Our teammate Dixie, actually, who will be going, she won the global zones in the winter season. So there was a lot of teamwork deployed in the postseason, which was really fun to watch. So I'm excited. This is our 8th and final week of the regular season, but we're going to still be broadcasting for the next couple of weeks into the postseason. And I think we're going to see, like a Zone B rider come ride in Zone D to help their teammate out, because their races are done. And that's, we began our teamwork, rallying around our teammates in the postseason before we even got to LA. So the teamwork is really fun in game. I really have a good time with that. That makes it so enjoyable and so much more interesting.
It does. And, this is about to start to get interesting here. If you're relatively new to this brand of cycling, maybe it just doesn't make sense. You see real people on real bikes. We've got, guys like Igor Kopsy right here from the Russian Federation, who is he's the guy we're following, right? His bike is in the middle there. He's wearing that blue jersey. You got to kind of pick him out of the crowd there, but he is there. Things are about to start getting really interesting. They're 19 kilometers in at this point, about 25 minutes of racing. As we mentioned before, this is a little over 40 kilometers, and things are going to start to get really hot right here. They're coming by the park. This is virtual London. He's going to towel off here real quick. I find it interesting that he wears gloves. That tends to be the thing that I take off first. He chose to take off his shirt. He's got a history of taking off his shirt. But Kopsy is going to do probably what we expect to really animate this race. It probably won't be him, but he is looking for that guy, the guy who's going to do it. There he is, the Zonneveld right there. You see him with that interesting, I believe that's no, not Netherlands, but he is from the Netherlands. He might be somewhere else right now. Things are about to get heated, and it may be the pro who does it. Frank.
Couple of things. First of all, I like wearing gloves. I don't know why you let your hands be naked. That does require, however, that you put a fan on your hands. Otherwise, you will get chapped hands because you will have nothing but soaking wet gloves that your hands are in. But I like the padding actually even more inside probably than I do outside. And I think we're going to have a little bit of an attack here. As we sort of go up this hill. We've got a lot of orange numbers on too.
Yep, so there it goes. Start to kick it up.
Yeah. Dempster, so, 2 seconds up the road.
Yep, absolutely. So you're seeing the race get animated finally here. They've sat in for halfway, sort of holding hands. And what you see here is huge attacks, people putting down. This is when the gloves start to turn wet. You can see Kopsy up and out of the saddle, hammering up this hill just moments ago, and then we'll return to the front of the race. But it looks like the race is staying Gruppo Compacto as well. We've got Norm maybe falling off the back by about 2 seconds. So we're going to sort of keep on this as well in terms of what we're looking at. But now the race is going to get animated. Now people are going to try and start to make a break. And you see here Lionel just making a big effort, getting out of the saddle. Now he's trying to get back down into the saddle and be able to maintain that energy, because it's all about continuance when you see this sort of thing. So a lot of people, such as myself, can hop out of the saddle and produce some huge watts and get a little bit of a break, and then people like me fade. Because I'm more of a sprinter than a time trialist. But other people have the ability to make this huge effort, get their heart rates up to 185, 190, and then sit back down and continue that effort. And that's really that continuance. When you continue that effort, everybody else has to jump out of the saddle, follow you, and then they have to do the continuance. And it's usually the continuance that really, really hurts. Now, sometimes, if you're the sort of person who can do sort of repeated attacks, that just gets to be mentally tiring on everybody. At some point, after you do 10 or 12 attacks, let's say, in elite groups like this, some of the people will just be like, hang it, just go ahead. We're going to let you dangle off the front, and we're not going to chase you. Or, heck, I'm going to wait for somebody else to chase you. I'm tired of making those attacks, right? Because it's like you do a sprint, and then you have to keep jogging at a high pace. Then you do a sprint, you have to keep jogging at a high pace. And if you think about what mentally that does to you, after you do that a few times, you're like, no, I don't think I want to do that again. Now, I do have some information about Ryan. So Ryan is in the UK at Professional Criterium today. He just announced with a pro team, and so his pro team, sort of wanted to introduce him, and he was not able to make the race today. So I think twofold for him. He's got it locked up. He's got a ticket to Vancouver, and he just signed a pro contract with
Life is good for Ryan.
Right.
Life is good for Ryan.
And an in real life team. It's actually one of the things that we see occurring. Ryan, a great athlete in his own accord, so I'm not saying this is just CVR World Cup, but he is the second person to get an in real life pro contract after riding in CVR World Cup. So I'm just going to say that there is some benefit for people looking for pro contracts in real life. We tend to focus on the virtual world. We actually think the virtual world is going to be huge. Fortnite just announced $100 million in prize pools over the course of the next year, and we're a couple zeros behind them at this time, but the zeros are coming, so we're very excited about the virtual world of cycling racing.
Virtual world,
And we
indeed.
are too.
$100 million. You heard it here first. CVR with $100 million. Oh, hold on. This just correction. Not $100 million for CVR yet, but it's going to come. So the interesting thing that we saw there, we went up and over that little section. That little climb is about all there is as far as up and down on this course, and then a hard right turn through Trafalgar Square onto the Strand. That was where we saw the little attack by Vujicic, trying to just animate it a little bit, and we're going to start to see a little bit more of that. He needs as many points as he can get. That's our guy right there. Vujicic is one of those guys sitting right on the cusp of greatness. Christensen, as Frank just mentioned, pro contract, not racing today. He's going to be introduced at that criterium if you're just joining us. But Vujicic, the man we're looking at right now, is the guy who needs this race more than anything. He's got to get maximum points here. But this is way too many people. Don't take your good-looking friends to the dance if you want to get the girl, my friend. That's right. You got to go it alone. Because what if she sees the dude that you brought and is like, well, who's that guy? You do not want the competition. Neither does Vujicic. He wants to get, and that's Lionel Vujicic to you and me, Mr. Vujicic, if you're delivering his mail. Speaking of delivery, it looks like Martins is going to try to deliver him back to the little lead group right there, but I think we're going to start seeing some jumps. There's the change in the posture. Yep, it's starting to happen. Domatitz is also doing that right there. There goes Vanna, right? Igor Kopse also, and he's digging big time deep. There he goes. And he's jumping off the front right here. We see it from his point of view. He's going to get himself up to that lead group. The question is, who will come with it? Probably everybody. But what we start to see here is a little bit of a decay in the size of the group, people slipping off the back and not being able to hang on to those. When it gets strung out like that, you lose that aerodynamic advantage and you come back. Vujicic does catch up with this group, that gray and that pink jersey on his back. See what I said? Everybody kind of comes back together. Now we're going to start to see the attacks coming fast and furious. Somebody else will feel, hey, I've still got legs. Let's see if I can animate this thing. It'll happen like it did before. Down at the bottom of this section, we'll come by the park here, and then we'll hit that uphill. Beth, what is the advantage of attacking on an uphill section like that, and why do we see it so often?
Well, on those little inclines, if you time your attacks right, you can actually open up a little bit of a break from the group. When the big group is moving, there is that aerodynamic advantage, and if you can get a jump on it and you hit that climb, you get a little boost. You can get 1 or 2 seconds on the group, and you also it forces them to respond. You know, on the flats, you can maybe attack, but you're not really going to get away. But you have a chance to get away on those little bumps. But here, nobody's getting away because nobody's going to let them get away. As we just saw that get closed up, we know that the group is going to match those, those efforts. But what we do know is that it does soften the legs of the group. So if you're more of a diesel time trialist, then you're going to not want to sprint at the end. So maybe you're going to put down a little bit more attacks to try to get those sprinters, try to take something out of the legs of your competitors. That's an option.
Ooh, big kick there at the front. It goes again.
Yes.
That's right. Vujasin, make sure that he gets on the wheel of that. It is. And he's going to try to dig up this hill. It's Kopse who's trying to get on his wheel and make sure that he stays right in that little aerodynamic pocket. But that's still too far. He's got to close that gap down to a couple of meters. Vujasin delivering it on the front. You see the guys on the back there do a little bit less work than the guy on the front. But again, this may not be the definitive mood. You're going to want to go with him as well, Igor. But Vujasin trying to animate this thing, right? Trying to make it more than a two-dimensional race here. He's trying to add that third dimension or that fourth, which is pain. Most people don't know the fourth dimension is pain, but Vujasin does, and he's delivering some of that fourth dimension right now. Gavin Dempster now 2 seconds back from that group. The professional Zonfeld not in the group. That is surprising. He's a verified professional rider. You better get on this. You're getting your butt kicked by, air quotes, amateurs. But Kopse making sure that he is right where he needs to be, sitting in that second or third wheel, near the front, but never on it. That is the thing that we say, or that I say, honestly, because I don't want to get dropped. McKee, the KISS rider, also in there. Here's what it looks like from Vujasin's position. He is handsome always, but he looks a little bit more gaunt than he did before. That means he's doing some work. Now he's back to breathing through his nose because he's cool like that. No big deal. I'm just going to look here.
I actually had a nice little exchange with Vujasin, and I still feel like I pronounced his name wrong. He gave me a specific time when I said it right, and I tried to go back and listen to it. But a little bit about him. He let me know he's a huge pizza lover, so hopefully he had a lot of pizza last night before this race. But he's also a vegetarian, and he's an Instagram addict, which is, so you can follow him at Lio Vujasin and see what kinds of things he likes to gram out there, because and he is kind of a cycling into cycling fashion. Interesting guy. I really appreciated people reaching out and giving us a little more information about themselves, so we know a little bit more about the riders. But he's an interesting guy.
Frank, I'm going to need you to weigh in on this. I'm not sure here, and we love Beth, but we give her what I think is an appropriate amount of grief. Did she just verb gram? Did she just say gram out there? And can we get a ruling? Is that okay, or is that a violation?
He said, I gram everything. I'm going to just stick with what he said. He's cool.
Okay.
I don't know if
I don't know. It seems like you
I'm
going to
say the professor and the professor of esports people on Mixer, so perk up your ears. If you're looking for a, what do they call it? They don't call them contracts, Dr. Haskell, in college.
Scholarships?
Scholarships. That's what they call those things in the collegiate world. Dr. Haskell is someone you want to listen to, understand, and he can talk a little bit about Boise State here in just a moment. A couple of things. We're going to switch over to the ladies monitor one or three here just real quick, and we'll probably do that through a stinger or whatever. But the one of the things I want to talk about here is Esther had she was streaming, and she had a dropout. She had a mechanical. Things went wonkers. Her internet. And maybe still be going wonkers as I try to pull her back. But anyway, there's a great story going on here that we can't see right at the moment because she's disappeared again. But she chased back on to the chase group she was like 3.5 minutes behind the lead group. She was like 3 minutes behind the chase group at the time, and she closed 3 minutes. It's a magnificent effort. And Esther's had the white jersey at Redlands in real life. We'll make some references to in real life here as we go as well. And she chased back on, and then she was now she had a pack, right? And she was pulling that pack back as well. And I think she had a chance to potentially pull back the two in the lead group, but I don't know where she is at the moment. So she might have suffered another mechanical, which would have been heartbreaking, right? And I see her popping in and out of the screen, so I'm assuming her internet is struggling, and when she's struggling, she will not get the benefit of a draft, and so it'll make it very, very hard for her to close. But it's something interesting to watch on that front. While I have the floor, big announcement from CVR World Cup today, and that is on the virtual side. So we've talked a little bit about pro in real life teams. We have a pro tour coming, which is geared specifically at teams. It'll have some very, very interesting formats that sort of enforce team racing because of the formats. The teams will work together in interesting ways, and we'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. But those prize purses will be very large. So we're talking, we've given out $220K in prizes so far since CVR World Cup started, which is just a little bit over a year ago, and we didn't start having prize purses until about 6 months ago. But in the coming months, especially our winter season when we have our major, you can look for prize purses in the 6-digit range and more than just 100,000. So you're going to be looking at prize purses upwards already before we do any crowdfunding and other stuff in the 200,000 range. That means the winning teams will take home between a minimum of 20,000 and as much as 50,000. So things are really heating up.
Wait, did you what? Did I just hear 20,000 and 50,000 for a team?
You did.
Wait,
that's a lot of zeros.
This is on the Frank. Your mic is on. Do you know that your mic is on?
Frank has lost his. Yes, Frank has a Fortnite. Fortnite envy. We'll call it Fortnite envy, for lack of a better term here. But what you're seeing is esports is just dramatically taking off, right? We've got Dr. Haskell scholarships, teams at Boise State. Heck, this is what he teaches, right? Professor of video games. I don't even know what your official term is, but as I always say, which probably is getting old, I think it's got to be a scam. I get paid to play, teach, and coach, direct. I'm not even sure what all your titles are, but esports is blowing up all over the place. Super exciting stuff, super exciting news, and there's this thing that goes on in the Zwift community that talks about it. This is just a game, but as we posted yesterday, it's just a game. But in Fortnite's instance, it's $100 million game, $100 million game, right? And in the case of CVR, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. We'll probably hit the $1 million mark not too far in the distant future. And so this is just really exciting times for esports. We're focusing on physical esports, but exciting times.
Well, very true. I just had to comment in the thing because I wanted to put it in writing, Frank. It says, because 20,000, 50,000, whatever for teams, listen up. You have to get in on that. That's crazy stupid. Yep. And I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of teammates, here's Tracy Vogel, my Vixen rider, who I will be recruiting for this team business. Jeez Louise. Cranking out at 3.0 watts per kilogram. She's 45 seconds back from Ketzer. If you are watching the game and you're new to this interface, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen a list of riders. You can also see numbers in terms of duration. That's representing the gaps both in front and behind Tracy. So you can see that Tracy has Slusher about 4 minutes back, and she's got Ketzer 44 seconds up the road. So each of the riders are putting out an effort based on their trainer or their power meter in terms of watts, and that watt calculation is there on the right hand side of the screen under their name and expressed in watts per kilogram of body weight. And that is how people move through the game. Their speed is calculated by some relative effort. Now it looks like there's Meisels again.
Bummer for Esther.
Oh man!
But here's the good news, right? Is that Esther is a well-known commodity, and even if she does not win this outright, which it doesn't look like she will, it looks like Lucy Collins, she is a strong candidate for the potential of an invite. There are at-large bids. Strong riders and professional riders, which Esther is a professional rider, could get an invite to that event, and she's a fan favorite. So if you're on Mixer on Facebook and you'd like to see Esther there, make your love for her known. It's not a voting system, not even close, but it always helps to know that if you're a rider, that you are well supported and well loved. This may be your opportunity. But as Frank just mentioned, this is going to get a little bit more crowded at the top than maybe it was. We've got some folks who have been amazing all the way along. Our broadcasting compatriot and also racing superstar Casey Shum showed that he was amazing in Los Angeles. And because he was able to do what he did, he really kind of opened the eyes that you don't have to be a full-time professional cyclist to put out full-time professional power and have unbelievable race savvy. As we said there, he'd probably put down his wheel on more start lines than any other racer who was at that event. And that includes the professionals. That includes inside and outside races. He was probably the most experienced racer. Here in the women's field, I know things are starting to heat up on the men's side too. But we've got Esther just trying to stay within that group. Marianne also in there. This is what the course looks like today, a long, flat lead-in to this course. That little whip in the upper right-hand corner of the main section down there where they are, where we see Marianne right now, is called the Strand. That little hub in the middle where everything comes from, looks like a tangled piece of ribbon, is Trafalgar Square. All right, as we look here, we've got Kopse, we've got Zonveld, again, the professional, verified, in a little bit of a lead group here. Those numbers in front are riders who are about to be lapped, but look who's hanging on to this group. It's Vujison, it's Gavin Dempster. Those are not the people you want to be hanging around before you do a big sprint finish. And they are, it looks like inside of 2 laps now to finish this. This is a pretty exciting finish. We see the fatigue on the face of a guy like Lionel Vujison, who is from Belgium, and he is a very popular rider. Lots of folks following him, watching him on CVR World Cup. That you can check that out. You can actually watch any of the streams that you want. You can cheer for the riders that you want over on CVRWorldCup.com. That'd be cycleview.cvrworldcup.com. You can search it. You'll find it. Here's our guy right now. That would be Rick Woods from Team Experimental. That's Frank's teammate. He's racing in that B group and actually doing an amazing job up with that group. That is a strong group right there. Multinational group from South Africa, from China. Wow, that's impressive stuff. So, Frank, here's my question to you as we get to this final lap here. You know, we've got folks racing in 4 different categories. We tend to follow the A. That tends to be the big finish, big group here. But there are lots of little races that are happening all over the place. What's the payoff for these folks as we venture into the postseason?
The payoff, so the way that this is structured is tables like football if you're European, soccer if you're in, sort of in the U.S., right? And I won't even say American because even in Mexico they would call it football. But we have a table
That's very
system.
Continental of you.
Yes, thank you. Did you like that? And I don't know. The Canadians are probably like, where do we fit? And I'm like, you guys are Canadians. So
you don't fit Canadians.
Oh no. Okay.
I joke.
Yeah,
I joke.
We'll be sending all those letters your way, Dr. Haskell. So just all those emails, you can just send them directly to Dr. Haskell with regards to that. So what you see is we have a table structure. The table is 6 races out of the 8 of the regular season count. in the table. The winner of the table gets an automatic bid from each zone across the globe. There's 8 zones across the globe, so this is truly World Cup, right? Global competition. And the winners of each of those get an automatic bid. The next race is March 23rd and 24th in real life race, where you get weighed in, you get measured, all the things are calibrated and controlled in terms of the virtualization equipment, those types of things. We have advanced telemetry on everybody there as well. And that's in Vancouver, March 23rd and 24th. The top man and top woman will take home over 10K in those races alone. And especially for the women, just to give you a sense, that is 7, 8 times what they would take home in an in real life pro race. So when we talk about esports, and we talk about esports changing the landscape of cycling and changing the landscape of virtual cycle racing, we're talking big changes, especially because we pay men and women the same. And we've got a huge attack here. So you've got Zoneveld just really hurting the field, and you see here Vujan trying to get back. Vujasin, someone pronounce that for me. I know that you can do it correctly, Beth. So I'll leave it there.
Well,
and we've got Kopse working hard as well.
Oh, Zoneveld now sliding back just a little bit further. He's going to get on the wheel. Kopse now trying to just deliver what he needs to get to the top of this hill first, and maybe see if we can get one of these guys to drop off the back. A little gap becomes a big gap when you have strong guys on the front, and it looks like Igor Kopse from the Russian Federation is trying to do that. There's Gavin Dempster, the BRT rider. Here's what's interesting is that he raced the A group today. This is not his race. This is not his to win. So who is he working for? He's got friends. We've all got friends. Well, maybe not every one of us, but we've all got somebody that we like that we're perhaps racing for.
Everybody's got friends? I feel left out.
I knew that if I said that, it was going to create a little question in Frank. Does he actually have friends? The truth is, yes. Yes, you do have friends. Okay. So, but that's the question. Who's he working for? Let's see if we can figure that out.
So wives count?
Yes, absolutely they count. They count. They better, or I'm friendless.
Our spouses are our best friends. So they have to be, because we do all this crazy cycling stuff and they still love us. So here we are back on board with Rick Woods here, and pushing 245 watts. You can see in the upper left hand corner, those are the watts. You can see he's spinning at 91 repetitions per minute, and his heart rate is 165. That's what's also really interesting about racing in this format, is that you can kind of see a little bit about some of the racers. Now, some of the racers have become a little more savvy, and they cover up if they have a power up. They kind of hide some of the data, but you start to get a sense, even here on Rick's screen. You can see at the bottom of his screen, you can see the red and the green and the yellow. Those are his relative efforts.
Beth,
the red is when he's working hard.
You're looking at all these graphics, and they're wonderful graphics. And Rick's promoting his the Woods family heating and air conditioning out there in I think it's West Virginia. But look at him suffer. This guy is suffering. He is. This is, one of the keys to being a great cyclist. And this absolutely, maybe more so inside of the virtual world. Because in the virtual world, it just never stops, right? Like, you're always pedaling, always pedaling. It's a little bit different than outside in that regard.
You can't coast. You can't coast.
No coasting, right?
Never.
Right? So this is maximum suffering, right? And you can just sort of see that in Rick's face here, and just his overall posture at this point, right? He's suffering. He's seeing this guy going hard at the front. And I know hate's a strong word, but there are glimmers of hate when you see somebody, when you're suffering like that, and somebody goes to the front and starts going hard. I don't know, maybe you guys are better men and women than me, but there are little glimmers of hate, right? That I look at that person and it's like you want to torture me, right? That's how I feel. It's like, and that's really how it feels. The burning. I was listening to a podcast the other day. And you can see this, like if you go to cyclinghub.tv, you'll see all these things of, you see, footballers, get kicked in the ankle, or maybe get kicked in the ankle and dropped, and screaming, and you see professional cyclists who wipe out, break their collarbones, break a rib, have tremendous amounts of road rash, and they get back on, and they ride. And I think a lot of people first are, these people are crazy, and yes, they're crazy. Don't worry, Chris, I'll get off here because I know there's going to be a big attack coming as we go here. But the reason you see cyclists do that is because just in their normal, everyday riding, they suffer a lot. So a crash increases the suffering, granted, but really, they're used to it, right? So they hop back on their bike and they finish the races, and then they go to the hospital, and sometimes the doctor's like, were you mad? What were you thinking? So a lot of pain involved, a lot of suffering involved, but that's also the art of the attack. In that, when that suffering's going, you want to be the person to deal out the punishment, not get it dealt to you, because mentally, that's also a different frame. You could do the same effort, and instead of feeling like you're being tortured, you feel like you're strong. And that makes a huge difference just mentally on how you approach racing. And a lot of times, the only thing somebody needs to be to sort of up their game, and we see Rick going really hard up here, so he's suffering again.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes all you need to do to up your game is to be the instigator instead of the follower, right? Because you suffer the same, or maybe a little bit more on the instigation, but you feel better about it, right? Like, you're not the one who's getting dealt to, you're dealing, and that just changes your mental aspect, and you can go just a little bit harder, and it feels a little bit better.
Yeah, never forget.
You're also putting yourself in control.
It's so true. And people say, are these riders on drugs? Yes. Yes, they're on drugs. Those who attack are on endorphin rushes, right? You do. And Frank's talking about it. That's an exact psychological principle. Your brain puts out a huge amount of additional endorphins triggered from that confidence of the I am instigating here. I probably feel better than these guys. And the people who can use those, those little injections of good brain chemistry are the ones who can take advantage of it. And that's not fair. That's just the way it is. That's really cool. We're getting close to the end here. We see about 8K to go in the Goldenberg group. He is one of those wily Canadians that I spoke about. You got to be careful around those Canadians. But the lead group right there has still that core group of guys that we were concerned about at the beginning, including Thies Zoneveld, who is a really strong rider. He's 37 years old. He raced again on the pro circuit in 2016, but it had been almost a decade since he'd raced on the pro circuit. He was in the national championship road race of the Netherlands.
We're going to turn left here.
2016. Okay.
And I think it's all going to break loose.
Kick. I think you're right. Where are you when this all comes down? Zoneveld, maybe not in the best spot here. He doesn't want to be tailgunning. This thing is going to get long and thin real quick. Vanna, just a little bit up ahead. You notice quite a few of the different Belgian flags. That's the sideways German flag, right? For those of you who don't remember, get the app. You'll be able to figure out the flags in no time, just like I did. I love that there's a rider in here named Damitz, because that's sometimes how I feel when having to chase Igor Kopsy up a hill like that. These guys are going to put out some huge statistics right here. Really ready to throw down. Starting to happen right now. You know the difference, what Samuel Clements says about lies, right? There are three kinds of lies. There are lies, damn lies, and statistics. These guys are trying to show that these are one of the biggest ones yet. Vujicic, damn it, right there at the front. I'm going to get in trouble from my wife for just calling his name. That's the way it goes. These guys are trying to get away. The guy on the wrong side of this, getting a little bit of a gap here, Zoneveld, he's having to put in more work than he might have to do otherwise. Heart rate functioning not at all at this point. His heart rate monitor dropped out. He could be dead. We do not know. Probably not. Gavin Dempster just a little bit up ahead makes that big move.
I thought that was pretty well played by him. So I'm gonna say Zoneveld has a good chance in the sprint. Well, he was in that tail gun position there, and I think he saved a little bit of energy when everybody else was burning a match. And by burning a match, when you attack hard like that, it deadens your sprint. For a period of time. It deadens what you can do as a top end for a period of time. It's just how your body works.
It's like your ultimate. It's an ultimate cooldown.
Right, exactly. And this is great. That's a great esports analogy, Chris, because what we're really saying is he's created his own physical power-up. And you see him, he's off the front of the group here. He's doing 6.5 watts per kilogram. Now, you see behind, they're doing quite a bit less. But what he did, this is a great move, and this just shows that this guy is very, very experienced. Why that was such a great move is because after everybody had burnt their match, right then, right, their glycogen's getting burnt off of their muscles, the lactic is coming up, and you get a hydrogen ion on there, you get lactic acid, that's what burns. And you just can't, it's really hard to go then. And so he goes to the front and he says, I'm going to just hurt you right now, and I'm going to hurt you all the way to the end because I can keep this power up. And everybody now is suffering big time, and it'll be very, very interesting. Now, if they stay as close as they are, chances are they'll get him in the sprint.
Okay, I'll take it to the finish here. Vujicic is trying to pull this back, but he may be the one who does way too much work. They hit the red carpet. This is the big finish. You know you love this. Zonderveld almost 2 full seconds up ahead there. Igor Kopsy waiting for Vujicic to go, but he misses the wheel. Vujicic is going to get this jump. Damas tries to cover the distance, but is not going to be able to. Vujicic trying to catch on to Zonderveld. He may be able to pull him back before the end. He's definitely got the velocity. He comes across that line, but so far to go still. And Zonderveld trying to kick this up over the top of the aerodynamic advantage. Comes in for Vujicic. He's going to be able to pass him right over the line. But wait, no! I cannot believe it. Norman Hughes ramps around him there at the end. Unbelievable power by the FTL rider. No one saw that coming. Here we see it from Igor Kopsey's view. Beth, describe this mayhem.
Well, these guys, Vujicic goes and he gets the jump on the pack, so he gets a little bit away. He goes to close it down by 1 second, and as we saw from his view, it looked like it was just going to be Vujicic and Bonnefeld together, but no, all these guys start to dig in. They get that momentum, and if you don't carry it to the line, you can get passed right around the end, and that is what happened. That was pretty amazing. Oh my God.
You see the disappointment there in Kopsey, and he missed the timing. You called it when you saw it, Chris, which was he didn't catch the wheel. He started half a second too late, and half a second takes you from maybe first, maybe second, all the way down to seventh. Timing is incredibly important. You just saw Kopsey giving an amazing amount of effort, and maybe we can pull up the replay here shortly, in that sprint, right? Just all out, all in, and he probably had the power today. I wouldn't say the guy at the top came from nowhere. It was awesome, and we're gonna see this again here.
Here it is.
Go ahead.
Yes. Oh, and he digs. He gets a great jump. He notices there's a little bit of a gap and puts his big power at the beginning there. Look at that. 150 revolutions per minute. That is an unreal cadence on the pedals there. And as we slow it down here just a little bit, we see that he catches that arrow right about here. And that is where he gets the best advantage against Zonderveld. We move the camera to the side because that's what we can do. But Norm Hughes at 12 watts per kilo still coming. He catches the same aerodynamic advantage. We come close here. You see the banner coming up on the right side of the screen. And just as they come across here, Norm Hughes with just a little bit more velocity, he jumps at the right time with that KISS kit and comes across. It looks like, yeah, and we saw it in the finals. The Vujicic comes across. Very, very strong sprint by Norm Hughes. No one expected him except maybe his mother, who knew he could do it. This is what we saw from the Kopsey perspective. And we see it open up right here. Watch this, maybe even slow it a hair. Just the delay in the response, yeah.
Yes, you can see the red numbers happening on the right-hand side of the screen. So that's that timing that Frank is talking about, is that if you're seeing red and you're not already pinned, you're 2 seconds behind in terms of getting started, because by the time you get ramped up from 6 watts per kilogram to that 11, 12 that we're seeing there, you just don't have enough runway there to catch up with even with that kind of power. And
I'll point out. Yeah, go ahead.
You go.
I was going to say, I'll point out that because he delayed and lost the wheel, the explosive effort on the other side actually formed a second line, which was over to his left. He no longer had the aerodynamic advantage because he missed the wheel. Had he stayed on that wheel, that might have been the natural way that the riders followed. But because he didn't, he found himself nose in the wind. It probably wasn't a huge wind, but it could even be a psychological wind that kept him from that. And he is disappointed disappointed. Great output by our guy. Okay, this is the women's race, and it looks to be all Ina Ketzer at this point. As we jump back in, we'll look at that in just a moment. We'll look at those details. So she has done a nice job. She's without the back and forth of the rider she knows very well, the newcomer to this race, who is going to run away with it, I believe, this time. We didn't get to see her in this race, but so glad that Lucy Collins decided to come out. Esther is an interesting case, Frank, and I'll ask you to kind of report on that. I suggested, I think we're going to have it. I think I'm hoping that we're going to do a bracket reveal and an invitation reveal show. That we're going to do a live event, and maybe you'll tell me, no, Haskell, you're full of it. But I think that nothing would be cooler than an invite show and a bracket reveal show for the
Haskell, you're full of it, but I do think that's a great idea.
Oh, okay.
So I think we should do that.
Not mutually exclusive. Not mutually exclusive. I think that would be an amazing show to have. We'll get the commentators on there. We'll talk about the possibilities in the postseason here and all of the excitement toward Vancouver. The highest grossing, the biggest prize purse of any virtual cycling event ever. That is really, really cool. And they're going to be face-to-face, Mixer. Hey, don't leave here without clicking that follow. We want to introduce you to some amazing folks throughout the days and the weeks to come. This is just
here we're watching.
You got a sprint. You got a sprint coming.
Oh, big sprint. Here we go. This is Rick Wood's day. I truly believe it. Beth, describe this passion as they come across the line.
Oh, you know what? This is when you dig down, and a really good friend of mine told me, you put your head down and don't look up and give it everything you've got. And I'm still working on my technique, but look at Rick go out of the saddle, just hammering. But wait. Haley comes around him at the end, the last 100 meters to go, and he gets past. He had maybe too much too soon for Rick Woods. He, again, the timing thing, you can go a little early, you can go a little late, but the other folks behind him, that's gotta be disappointing for Rick, but he gave it his all. He was powering. I thought it was his day. We both did. Why don't we take a look here back with Ina? But nice
here's
job,
Ina
Rick.
coming across. Yep. This is Ina, and she's going to finish. She's got to feel proud of her performance this season. This will bring her about 6,005 points for the season, only 6 points behind Lucy Collins. That would be a matchup I would love to see in real life, but obviously there aren't that many spots at this. There'll be the winter spots, there'll be those invitational spots, Frank, and so interested to see how that will shape up. Here we are on board again with Ryan Goldenberg. This is the Strand. They are just came under that 1 kilometer to go banner, and it's going to start getting crazy right here. One more exciting sprint finish to call for you.
Yeah, and one of the things that you're seeing here, and I'll give this to you here just momentarily, but we've seen the A bracket, we've seen the B bracket, and we've seen the C bracket today. And you see that even on a flat course, the distinctions, CVR's got it sort of dialed in, figuring out who fits in which group. And you saw Rick go for the win in the Bs, and you're going to see Ryan go for the win here in the Cs. And you notice each of these groups starts a little bit later in terms of their sprint.
Yes, they do. It depends on where you go. Rick did a nice job trying to get away, but it looks like on the front right now it's Borelli, and he's trying to get away. He's got to connect these dots right here. You want someone to jump. And look at that jump to the outside there. That power is trying to get up and around, but no one is going to be able to catch on to him except for maybe Tamerlo. He's trying to get there, but Ryan Goldenberg climbing very quickly through the group. This might be his day. Look at him spin so dang hard on the right side. Can he come across first? Yes. Oh, coming fast there.
He almost let it go. He almost took off the power too early. That's the amazing thing in these sprints, the momentum that people carry. You come off 1,000 watts or 800 watts, and you slow down like right now because you have tremendous aerodynamic resistance, right? The wind, as you go faster and faster, it's not linear, it's exponential, and when you're going that fast, when you take off the power, you it's like a sail. You just hit the brakes, and people who are still on the power, as you saw there, can come so quickly at the end that if you sit up just a little bit early, almost cost Ryan that sprint victory there right at the end because he sat up just a little bit early. Something to note: you have got to go, as your high school track coach would have told you, you've got to run through the line. You've got to run through the line.
Through the line.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
It can be a little bit harder in cycling when you start a tad bit too early because it's not the same sort of pacing as you get in track. If you're doing 100 meters, you know what to do. If you're doing 400 meters, you sort of have a pace. But in cycling, other people dictate that pace, and you have to respond to that pace. If they go from 800 meters and you were planning on a 450 meter sprint, which is often what I do, well, then you've got to go from 800 meters, and that changes everything.
It does change everything. Hey, Frank, we've got a huge group of new folks filing in here going, what in the what? Here is what you just missed and what you need to. We'll jump back to the men's big finale right here that we'll run that replay for you so you can see this. And we'll tell you what you missed and what you have to look forward to with the remainder of the day, and frankly, every week right here. We just had a big sprint finish in this 40-plus K big jump. This is what happened in the men's B group. Rick Woods, you see him right there working his tail off. Jumped early, but at about 100 meters to go, got passed by a handful of other folks. Now, this was that men's big finish that we'll show you here in just a moment as well. This is Ina Ketzer, who just finished that big race a moment ago. Okay, she's coming in. But this was the big finish as we saw it. Zonefeld, who is a professional cyclist, had a big jump early. But Lionel Vujicic from Belgium decided he was going to close that gap. And look at those big watts. 800 watts, by the way, for those of you who are new, is unbelievable real-world power on a real bike. Hardest video game ever. Vujicic with a great early run, staying above 10 watts per kilo. That's a big number. Damit's closing on his wheel, but still the German, a full second back. The guy we want to pay attention to is fourth down from Vujicic in the line. That is a guy named Norm Hughes. Now he's second, only 1 second back. Spoiler alert, Norm Hughes would have a huge celebration on the day. But how could it happen? With only 100 meters to go, he catches, Vujicic that is, the professional, catches him with about 45 meters to go before the line. But Norm Hughes would not be disappointed today. The strong KRT rider stuck around, and he chose his biggest watts for the end. And look at him come around right there. You have got to be kidding me, because the race ends right here. And as I am want to say, the bike racing is a race to exhaustion. And the person who gets there at the right time is usually the winner. It looks like our guy Vujicic got there a little bit too early, about 10 meters too early. This was the view of Igor Kopse. I hand it off to my colleague Beth and tell our mixer crowd to click the follow because you want to see these races in the future. What happened here?
Here we go. Igor just misses the wheel. Vujicic takes off, and he starts to dig in just a little bit late. He loses some of that aerodynamic advantage, and he is on his own, digging as hard as he can, trying to catch that group, but he doesn't quite catch on. But we've seen him week after week put his head down like the Incredible Hulk. I mean, this is like stupid power. He is working so hard. He looks like he's going to rip someone's face off, but it's not enough. Despite all of that anger and energy, he does not get to the front to challenge Vujicic the way that Hughes did, but he wanted it, and this is what you see, nothing left on the line. Here's in slow-mo. He's still going. He's still got over 12 watts per kilogram, and he is digging right to the line. His eyes gaze at it, and he knows it's not enough, and he just starts his grimace, but that was something to see.
So that was an interesting point there. I don't know if you guys saw this, but let's talk a little bit about Zwift, the game, and how it works, because Kopse got caught out by not being in the draft. So he was on the right-hand side. Everybody else who was sprinting was on the left-hand side, and you saw the line of riders, and randomness just caught Kopse out. He put in a huge sprint, but he had no drafting. He was off to the right-hand side, and that is a huge difference in the game. You've got to get set up in the right spot, and you've got to stick to the right people, because you kind of stick to people in the game a little bit, and you can. There are very subtle skills in Zwift that people don't really understand and realize, and they're not understanding exactly what's going on, and we've got to talk about this a little bit more, because a couple of riders got Kopse out on the right-hand side, kept him out there, didn't really sprint. All the guys who sprinted on the left-hand side, Kopse gets caught out.
He does. He gets caught out completely. That aerodynamic makes a huge, huge difference. So you've got to follow the wheel. We talk about this all the time. The time to respond, the time to close the gap, the time to do anything is
now.
It's now, right? Because a second later, any bit of that. And these riders are very attuned. But at the end of a back and forth event like this, 43+ kilometers into it, it's really, really hard to do that, especially after 8 whole weeks. And we see Ina Ketzer here, who's going to come across first in the women's field. She is a strong German rider. She's next to Christoph Ketzer, who just finished the race. They're together in real life. Well, he's already off the bike. Here was the look a moment ago as she came through with 1 lap to go. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. There's Ina. We love her. What a great racer she is. Christoph already separated from the group. Okay, this was the big finish by Ryan Goldenberg. What happened here, Beth? Spoiler alert, you're going to want to watch this guy, and Han Solo dies.
Giving it away. So Ryan Goldenberg is an experienced Swift racer, and he puts that here. He displays that all in all of its glory right here. He is digging in. He knows what he needs to do. He's dropping the power. He moves his way to the front. He takes a little bit of the lead out from those guys and says, you know what? I'm ready to come around you with like 50 meters to go. He comes around them. He keeps the pedal down. He doesn't back off. You can see behind him the numbers soften a little bit. I don't know if psychological, but almost gets past at the end here by Allington, it looks like, by Steve, and
look how close this is.
It's so close. It is so close.
I mean, if he had come off that power half a second earlier, just half a second, right, it would have been all over. And that is one of the worst feelings in the world, I can just tell you from a sprinter's perspective. If you let off the power, when you had the win, it was in the bag, you just needed to literally take one more pedal stroke. That's all. I had this coach who used to show me when you're in the big gears, right, and you just one downstroke of your pedal is meters on your bike, right, in the big gear. And all you have to do is take one more pedal stroke, right, and you don't, and somebody passes you, gets you right on the line, it's devastating. Right now, luckily Ryan missed, he didn't have that feeling today, but boy, was he close. Next time, he's going to take that extra pedal revolution.
Yes, he is.
He sure will for insurance. So we just saw Ina come across the line, and we're watching Tracy Vogel here finish up her race. And again, we have more racing throughout the day, Chris. This is Zone D. We have E, F, G, and H. I'm not sure if H will be broadcast, but...
And there'll even be G here. Yep. Right. And we'll give you a quick rundown here as well of those who have finished and done well here. Yes, Christian Maurer, amazing job. No, there's more folks. But in the overall standings for this field, this men's A field, and a right click will give it to you. We have Ryan Christensen, Joachim Plommers. In the men's A bracket, the next race you are gonna want to watch, and it is a wild one. Steve Young at the top of that chart, Lars Peikenbrink, Jeff Muse, Morten Vang, and the others, all in a position to be really successful, maybe to win it outright. Might be Steve Young. We'll also give you some highlights here. This has been another week 8 of this. If you're just joining us, click that follow. We're going to bring you the first-hand view of some amazing women, some amazing men as they race their guts out later today. This is Zone D. Every 3 hours, we start another one today on Tuesdays. Just check that follow, and we'll notify you when these folks are playing the women's standings. We couldn't do this without Ceres, without Cyclops, Power Tap, and of course Garneau. Fabulous equipment. Peaks Coaching Group. That's Hunter Allen's group, of course. These folks bring this great thing to you. So we're so excited that you could join us. Beth, Frank, producer Kathy, myself, Dr. Chris Haskell, professor of video games. We are so excited that you are here, and we can't wait to see you again. We'll be here all day. So check us out, and we'll bring you the great stories as we push toward Vancouver. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you very, very soon. Make sure you click that follow before you go. This has been CVR World Cup League Week 8.